want to stress this because what I saw was the need. Everyone was sending us, oh, we'd like to purchase part of your company, and then we're going to put you in there and put you in here. All I could think about was, okay, great. Does this need to be nationwide? Yes. Does this type of facility need to be for our families across the country? Absolutely. But I was too afraid that it would be replicated. The heart wouldn't be there because my heart is not with our parents. And I'm sorry, guys. I appreciate you, but it's all the neurodivergent children that are out there. Hi, friends and family, and welcome back to another edition of Pam and the Purple Couch podcast. Today, we're going to talk about MindMeld and Aspire, two programs that we developed here at Puzzlebox Academy. But why did we develop them? Because I was a mom about 20 years ago on this mission by herself, and I wanted to ensure that parents never had to feel alone again. So today, let me give you these gifts, these tools. That way you'll never feel that you're doing this journey by yourself. So, Manny, MindMeld and Aspire, you know, we're supercharged about them.
Yeah.
And it's only been out for a little over 2 months now. We've got almost 300 subscribers online to this. It has been amazing. The feedback's been amazing. And we did our first monthly Zoom.
Yep.
So let's give our listeners a little bit of how they can access it, because it doesn't have to be in Florida.
Yep.
We did this so you could be worldwide families. You can access this program through the 𝘗𝘀 platform. And we have got access from all the way in Asia, in Beijing, from the
Dubai.
Dubai, yes, I was going to say Minnesota, Kansas, Seattle, Washington. We've got people all over the world now, which is phenomenal because that was our goal. And we're just starting. And so just starting it, and here we are, we're seeing this momentum. So we wanted to talk today about, number one, why did we do it? Number two, what all resources are actually there. And number three, how we actually are listening to you all and answering your questions live.
Yeah.
The first Zoom we just did last week, which was amazing. You all got to see Pam live in action.
We had some moments beforehand that really started it interestingly.
Yeah, well, we film it here on our campus, which is our high school and junior high school. And we have our transitional living students that are here as well. And sometimes our kids have crises. Well, guess what? Pam doesn't care about the Zoom when a kid's in crisis.
That's right. Yeah.
And on this first one, we did just that.
Yep.
So every month, Manny and I get down and get to the nitty gritty, and we talk about the real things you're dealing with today, whether it's in your classroom or whether it's home. And we answer your questions live. Why are we doing that? Because we know that accessibility to care is sometimes not readily available. So we wanted to make sure that in areas that do not have accessibility to BCBAs, RBTs like we do here in Florida,
Right.
and the different teaching programs that are available, how to actually have classroom management. And that's for my instructors that are all over the United States. We had a lot of families that were like, oh, Pam, because we're here by what used to be Patrick Air Force Base. So now that it's Space Force, I keep thinking about a movie from the 80s. So I have a hard time. My Swartz is bigger than your Swartz, you know? I mean, this is what I think every time I say Space Force.
Right.
But why was the essence of this? Is because, well, I was getting venture capitalists, private equity companies. We have it called the OS folder. You can figure what that one is. It's like the chapter 13. And we do it just to remind ourselves that we are doing something good here, something so much that people want to replicate.
And I think the audience needs to hear something that they don't probably even know about you, that I know about you, because I'm going to toot your horn a little bit. So there are people in this world that really just want to do two things and do two things very meaningfully that I think Pam has done throughout all the time I've known her and before. That's provide resources to people that don't have it, and to create a community. And you've been doing that even before you went online, before you started public speaking, before you started writing a book. Here in Brevard County, families across our county and across our state have benefited from the resources that you provided and your team has provided, even before I started in your team. And then building that sense of community, whether it's through fundraisers or events or free events for kids, neurodiverse and neurotypical. And so to me, I think the origin of this stems from those two passions that you have as a person, as a leader, as a mother. And I think there's not a lot of people that do that. And so for me, I think the families need to hear that. Why did we create MindMeld? Why did we do Aspire? It's still with those two passions. Provide resources free of charge and for very minimal costs, right? Like almost dirt free. And then also provide them a platform where they can talk in a sense of a community. And the people that are subscribers already, join us. I'm sure we're going to splash the links right on the screen. But it is about that. It's about that sense of community.
The community is the biggest part.
Yeah.
The Aspire program, which is our classroom management teaching program, it takes about 35 to 40 hours to complete. But that goes all the way from how do I even start teaching my kid to how do I get buy-in from a group of administrators or teachers or caregivers. And I want to stress this because what I saw was the need. Everyone was sending us, oh, we'd like to purchase part of your company, and then we're going to put you in there and put you in here. And all I thought about was all the puppy mills.
Mm-hmm.
And it disgusted me because Loki came up with the name of Puzzle Box. That was his doing, So all I could think about was, okay, great. Does this need to be nationwide? Yes. Does this type of facility need to be for our families across the country? Absolutely. But I was too afraid that it would be replicated and then the heart wouldn't be there because my heart is not with our parents. And I'm sorry, guys. I appreciate you, but it's all the neurodivergent children that are out there. Like I said, if we would go back in time, I'm sure if my mom was having me during the 2000s instead of the 70s, that it would have been your daughter's on the spectrum.
Yep.
My analytical approach to everything and seeing in numbers, I understand that, but I also have a trigger. And until I got into the field, I didn't realize. I thought that's corporate Pam. This is just what we do to get and survive because I was a woman in the corporate field. But now looking back and understanding the neuroscience and the biology, I'm like, oh, Pam, you were never taught any de-escalation. I'm thinking all of our kids and how we teach them coping skills. And that wasn't something that was taught during my generation.
Yeah, and I think, to give the audience a little bit of perspective of who's the intended audience for Aspire, we're talking parents, teachers, caregivers, right? They don't have to be parents. And then also administrators of teachers, which is all encompassing of the education of these students. Like whether they're at home, homeschooled, or they're at daycare, or they're in elementary school or high school, private, public, whatever. The Aspire model was intended for all that, all these people.
Correct. And the biggest one, I've got to tell you, because, I don't sugarcoat things. I just go right in for it, just like our kids do. The main goal for this was to make sure our preschool teachers and daycare providers had affordable training. All right, families, we'll be right back after this special message. How are your high school students doing today? Maturity, puberty, social media? Have they found their home? Have they found their tribe? Well, at 𝗵𝗂cy High School, our students all fit in because we are a non-traditional high school. So come down, take a tour, see what it's like to have education done right. www.𝗵𝗂cyhighschool.com. And now, back to the Purple Couch podcast. I know in Florida, I used to be a former director for the VPK program here in Florida, and that's a voluntary pre-kindergarten program. And as a director, you had to sit and train, and you had to be able to educate and promote your teachers underneath you.
Right.
Well, in the daycare field and in preschool, The only requirement is a 40-hour class through the Department of Child and Families. That's what we call it here in Florida. It depends on what your state lingo is. But preschool teachers are your first line of defense in early intervention.
Yep.
And yet they are underpaid, undertrained, and they're looked at as babysitters.
Yep.
And I think that is an injustice that we have to shape. And we can't shape that, though, without knowledge.
Right.
Because knowledge is power.
Right.
So that was my goal. And I know you talk about the price. So, guys, what Manny's talking about is we underscored this extremely in the pricing. But we did it because, and look, we just came back from the Facts Elevate conference, and this was for educators across the United States. If you are teaching and you're in a private school, a religious school, please look into Facts, FACTS. It is a wonderful documentation resource, CRM, your grade book. It is nationwide, and it's an amazing conference where educators get together and they formulate ideas and strategies in order to do the best for their students. So while we were there, we got pinpointed by a lot of IT companies that were there that were promoting their software, their testing. And when they saw our price, they were like, why are you doing this?
Right.
And it was because this is what we do for a living. What I should tell people, that is kind of the behind the scenes thing, is that every one of the memberships and subscriptions to Aspire or MindMeld is a donation that we make then to Bridge to Tomorrow. And Bridge to Tomorrow is our foundation that comes in and helps parents fill in the financial gap that state, federal, and scholarship programs do not. I was raised by a single mom. And I know what it's like to struggle. I know what it's like to run 2 pennies together and hope that you can get $1. My sister and I come from a generation where you dug in the car to get change to pay for gas. You know, kids throw their change away now. And we're like, you never knew what it was like to be poor.
Exactly.
But again, it went back into how can I keep playing it forward? And where was the voice or the assistance or help when Loki and I were going through it? And so, number one, preschool teachers are underpaid. Daycare providers are underpaid, but yet they're the first ones dealing with your child outside of the home.
Yep.
So they need to be the most trained to see if there is a difference in learning. Because I don't want to say that there's something wrong, because there's not. Most of the time, it's simply a delay or a different strategy.
Right.
But yet you're not giving them any of the tools.
And then think about like these individuals, these teachers, these caregivers in the school, in these pre-K daycares, attending or responding to these kids' behaviors in the wrong way, the long-lasting damage that could do.
Absolutely.
Right? It's teaching that kid how to respond wrongly.
You're thinking about, and I love it because you're thinking about the kid. I'm not. I'm thinking about the provider.
Yeah.
You know,
they're doing the best they can. They're just
I have 11 years of experience outside of my own household. And even then, just last week, I was used as a push, what is it? A pen cushion.
Yeah.
You know, I've got this wonderful, beautiful bruise on this side of my body right now because we had a nonverbal 6-year-old that was as tall as I was that ended up having tooth pain. And he did what he needed to do in order to calm himself.
Right.
Well, I'm trained to handle that. But we all know that, especially in daycare and in preschools, kids are biters. And it hurts, okay? It's not something that you're like, oh, Johnny, that feels great, but let's not do that. No, your first action is to react. Now, did you see what Manny did?
Yep.
How many people just watching this podcast realize that if you have a child that goes in to bite you, the worst thing you can do is pull back from the child?
Right.
Why? Because you're looking for more damage for you.
That's right.
The easiest thing to do is take the kid's head, and I'm doing it because this is where my bite was, and to actually push them into the bite. Because the first thing they're going to do is go, I can't bite anymore, and they're going to let go. And now you have your release. And now the pain has stopped. The kid is now calm, and now you're in the right state of mind. But that's not what happens.
No.
Untrained staff then either push the kid away, cause more damage to themselves, or worst case scenario, use words that they can't take back, or maybe physical aggression in response to physical aggression.
Right.
And is it really the fault of the provider that probably loves that child to death and it destroyed them to have to push the kid away, but they didn't have the tools. And that's why I keep talking about filling our toolbox. We've got to fill the toolbox because it's the administrator or the admin, the director. You have to have your team trained.
Yep.
Because otherwise you could break that employee that loves children.
Yeah, and I think that's what I like most about our MindMeld Aspire program, because we're teaching teachers, we're teaching caregivers fundamentals of applied behavior analysis, the science that works to make a positive difference in their lives. Not the science that works sometimes.
Correct.
It's the science that works to make a positive difference in their lives. Whether it's a simple method of prompting, priming, these are tools and techniques that we teach, right? But they're fundamentals. They're the fundamentals, because the fundamentals always work.
The building blocks.
The building blocks,
You know,
that's right.
What I was saying yesterday, and I can't remember if it was one of our BCBAs up in Rockledge, and I made a comment. I was like, if our foundation is not built, the house will fall.
That's right.
And it's the same way with education.
Same way with education. So thinking about the role of a teacher and trying to manage behavior in the classroom, or if you're a teacher in home, managing the behavior of the student in your home, from setting clear expectations, getting their attention, reinforcing the right things,
Absolutely.
giving them breaks if they need breaks, and responding to those behavioral cues. As a teacher, that's pretty difficult if you're not prepared for that.
Yes.
And then going all the way to the administrators, how to motivate, maintain motivation, reinforce your staff who may be suffering in silence, who may not be giving you the information you need about what they need as a teacher. And I think our program is all about facilitating those discussions, facilitating those tools that they can use in the moment, and then looking at the long term using data to be your guide in terms of that student's ultimate success.
Data, tomato, tomato. But it is. We need to have the data, because we need to understand, is this a perception or reality?
Right.
You know, and it's just like when I tell you the parents to advocate for their students, to say, okay, well, how many times and when is this happening? You know, for this, let's use this incident with this student.
Right.
You know, when we actually sat down and then talked to mom, it was the data that led us to understand what was going on. Number one, mom had not let us know that he was having pain in the morning, so she was giving him Tylenol before sending him in.
Right.
And then Tylenol only lasts 4 to 5 hours. Then on top of that, it always happened around lunchtime.
Mm-hmm.
So we're like, okay, so looking at the data, and this is what you cracked the case. Then mom goes, oh, well, I do have an appointment with the dentist because I think he's having some tooth pain. Well, you have a nonverbal child that's in pain, and it's all triggered once the medication, which you didn't let us know he was on, wears off, and he can't express where the pain is. So he did what he needed to do.
Right.
And so many of our kids do this exact same thing. But you nailed it. So many of our staff also do. Mm-hmm. The suffering in silence that you made, that was your comment. That really, while I was sitting here, was like, oh, I felt that inside.
Yeah.
I was one of those people.
Yeah, me too.
And then I took it home.
Yeah.
And then, well, what was wrong with you? I've just had a really bad day. And you just push it down and push it down. And I think for me, that's why I don't push anything down anymore.
Well, and I think that, you know, that whole phrase of suffering in silence, and that comes from, I used to work in manufacturing facilities, and that's where I remember first learning about suffering in silence, because in manufacturing settings, it's kind of molded from a military standpoint. You get your orders, you follow the orders. Why? Because things go boom in a manufacturing facility. So you don't discuss, you don't question orders.
Right.
So it's got a lot of military feel for it. And so, but the employees, just like anybody else, if they're struggling with the orders, if they don't agree with something, or they really don't know how to follow those orders or whatever, they're not going to tell the general, you know, they're not going to tell their commander, I don't understand what you're saying. They're just going to say, yes, sir. Well, sir. Absolutely, sir. And then they're going to give it a shot. And the problem is they can make a mistake.
Yes.
And those mistakes can lead to injury. So how does that relate to parenting Aspire educators? Well, you got, in our case, the individual, you know, the kid that bit you, you know, the RBTs, the registered behavior techs, the therapists that responded, everybody responded. At the first glance, we talked about all sorts of reasons behind the biting, right? Can't communicate, maybe it's escape avoidance, maybe he was trying to access something, you know, all these different functions of behavior but it didn't occur to us in the heat of the moment, like, Was there some other factors? So the employees who have been dealing with this kid for a long time just kind of accepted it. Like, it is who he is, right? It's what do I do? So then when we start to peel the layers of the onion, that's when you start to say, man, the employees really, they didn't have a voice, right? They didn't know what to ask, or they didn't.
Exactly.
They didn't, you know, they thought that just how we got to do it. So we've had a lot of great discussions with the staff since then to say, you don't have to just suffer in silence. You need to talk. You need to ask questions. And of course, you know, being that I also had the same experience with the same kid the next day, I think that's when you start asking those critical questions like, okay, so what's going on outside of this environment? Is there anything that's, you know, that could be causing this that we're not even seeing or thinking about?
Absolutely.
And that's when you're not suffering in silence, when you're asking those critical questions, whether you're a teacher or a parent, and then trying to figure it out.
You're also building that entanglement too, the more that they're communicating together. And since we're talking about communication, what I also want to talk about is the second part of what we have available on the Circle platform. And it is called our MindMeld. Now, MindMeld is a social media gathering of all types of parents, caregivers, teachers. That's more of a chat room.
Yep.
You know, what we saw was so much criticism on Facebook, Instagram, when our community of parents that are dealing with neurodivergent children, family members, spouses, it is its own little clique.
Absolutely.
You know, so when we're talking and then other family members or people outside of having a neurodivergent member then would make comments. And, you know, we're in a time where social media comments have impact, but yet no one has any accountability after they make the comment.
Right.
You know, especially anonymous members. I can now put anything out here and never take any accountability for it. And I watched so many family members get hurt because they would be expressing in some of the public chat rooms, hey, my kid is going through XYZ. This is what I did. I feel like I'm failing them. They're sharing their heart. And then someone comes in and puts some snarky comment that just cuts. I mean, I could feel it.
Right.
And I was like, okay, we've got to do something where our families can speak freely in a like-minded environment. And that's what MindMeld is.
Yep.
It is a closed private network of social media that families of neurodivergent members or neurodivergent people themselves can communicate without judgment.
Right.
So we're at that end time already.
Yeah.
This episode just kind of flew by.
Yeah, it did.
So what's one tip or trick that you can give to our families to take home from this episode today?
Well, I think you started it off right. Like, the whole purpose of why we did MindMeld and Aspire was so that people understood they don't have to do this alone. So, you know, I encourage everybody, my tip and trick is I encourage everybody that if you're struggling, don't struggle in silence. Don't suffer in silence. Reach out to a community like ours. Reach out to a community near you. Just reach out and start talking. Start asking questions. Start looking for not a solution to an immediate problem, just a solution for how to get solutions, if that makes sense.
Yes.
So that would be my advice.
I think my biggest one that I want to send home to all of our caregivers, family members, teachers, preschool, daycare providers is that do not let a dollar amount or a financial resistance stop you from flowing. You know, I've really, for the last year, I have this phrase in my head that it's my river is going to flow, and if you're a rock in my river, I'm throwing you out because the river must flow. So if it is a financial impact to why resources aren't getting to you, then reach out to us. info@pamelafer.com. And we will be there to help support you. Like I said, we do have a nonprofit that's there to help families. We understand that we're all hurting in the financial times today, but don't let that restrict you from being able to be the best version of you. And having tools and resources when you love someone in our community should never be something that's holding you back. We're always here to support each other. And together we can change the entire world. So, guys, from our couch to yours, make sure you hit the like button, the subscribe button, so we can fill your toolbox full of ideas, tips, and tricks. So until next time, Pam and the Purple Couch Podcast. We'll see you soon.